Here we are at Stanford University. Look at all these books behind me. Leadership is not about books. Leadership is about people, human-to-human interaction. But we can use these books because when we can analyze leadership, when we can understand some of the nuances, look at techniques that good leaders use and try to emulate it ourselves, we can be good leaders ourselves. We can enhance our ability to interact with people by looking at analysis of rhetorics, by analyzing rhetorics ourselves, and by experimenting until we see what works right. At the end of the day, everybody makes their own choice about the rhetoric they use. Donald Trump is using a very non-humble rhetoric. He has zero modesty. But he's still on his way to win the presidency. And there's exceptions to every rule. But I certainly know people who don't want to follow him because of the fact that he's not modest. Who would want to work for somebody that would rarely raise your status? People want to feel important. The reason why the American people likely enjoy Donald Trump is because for them to follow him, they don't necessarily need his validation. They just need to trust that he will do a good job for them. And he promises that he'll make America great again, and so people are aligned with that because people like America, he likes America. It's all one big family. Here at Stanford and at Silicon Valley, we're trying to make the world a better place. And people have to feel appreciated. And it's free to love. It's free to give. And everything in this research that I found leads to the idea that the most humble leaders are the most powerful leaders, are the leaders who love, and are the leaders who have appreciation. An appreciation both in the definition of recognition of enjoyment of good qualities in others, and appreciation in the second definition of having a full understanding of the situation, a full perspective. Some examples of either of these definitions can be having gratitude, giving credit to others, having showing an understanding of how much work you've had to put in, being willing to admit to your vulnerabilities, as well as having some kind of noble motive and appreciating the gratitude that other people might have for what you're doing. For example, the way that Nikhil is enjoying the fact that students are getting closer together thanks to his social networking application. But it's one thing to read a book. It's another thing to learn it and implement it. And just like playing piano takes years of practice, human-to-human interaction takes years of practice. In the book Outliers, there's the idea that you have to spend 10,000 hours practicing something before you get good at it. While I've been president of my fraternity and head of the school newspaper and even in charge of a startup, I've not had 10,000 hours of practice. I'm only 20 years old. And I'm going to have to spend many more years until I can potentially come close to President Hennessy or Steve Jobs in their rhetoric. And they don't even need to think about it anymore. They just do it second nature. Maybe they've learned to do it second nature even without studying these books. Maybe they learned just by experimentation and natural tendencies to lean towards what works best when working with people. And everybody has their faults. Steve Jobs in his biography is described as having certainly a lot of faults in shouting at people and having a very, very tense temper. And that obviously lowers people's status, but it could be effective because then when he is appreciative, it kind of makes the higher status even more meaningful. And so I strive in my life to hopefully get as much practice as I can to help other people around me really appreciate what they have by appreciating what they have and by giving free love so that I can be loved as a leader in return, and so that I can really make people's self-concept higher, make people feel like they have the power to change things. And if we can inspire others to follow us and to feel good about themselves doing it and to excite them about noble motives, we can really change the world in wonderful ways.